Alberta's premier believes building an oil pipeline to Canada's west coast will be a test for Canadian unity. This week, Danielle Smith announced that her government is sinking $14 million into early planning for an energy channel through British Columbia and to the Pacific coast. She said the move is an olive branch to Prime Minister Mark Carney and the federal government. Jason Gaidola joins us live with more tonight. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Manisa. Not only does Premier Smith hope it makes his next major projects list, she also hopes that Ottawa axes federal laws on emission caps and a tanker ban in order for the private sector to come and fund such a project.
This is a test of whether Canada works as a country, because if we can't build with collaboration of the federal government and between provinces, if it's everybody gets to get their products going to market except Alberta, that's not a country. A country is one where we support each other.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith suggested that Canadian unity may be on the line following her proposal to revive an old desire to have a pipeline built to the West Coast.
Because I think that's the trigger. We have to get a signal from the federal government that they're going to work with us rather than block us, as they have for the past 10 years. And so it's really very much in the Prime Minister's court.
Earlier this week, Smith announced that her government will sink $14 million in provincial funding for early regulatory work on a proposal to a yet-to-be-determined port on the northern BC coast. Smith hopes the kickstart will instill enough investor confidence from the private sector to eventually take over and also attract First Nations groups to get on board with potential ownership stakes.
I don't think the Prime Minister will be surprised. I've told him that you can't build a shiny new pipeline if there's no one willing to put the production in it, to be willing to expand production. We've got to address the bad laws, the tanker ban, the emissions cap, the ban on being able to talk about emissions performance, that so-called greenwashing bill.
This is the latest push for an oil expansion do-over since the cancellation of the Northern Gateway pipeline by the Trudeau government in 2016.
Having another pipeline, especially to the Asian markets, would be extremely valuable for the Canadian economy. So again, it's not just Premier Smith, it's not just Alberta.
Smith hopes the preliminary plan makes the Prime Minister's next major projects list.
From now on, Canada's new government starts by asking ourselves for major projects, how? How can we do it bigger? How can we do it faster?
Since Carney's announcement on the first 5 infrastructure projects, there has been little indication on where the Prime Minister will lean.
Enbridge is building 2 pipelines right now in the U.S. without taxpayer money. TransCanada Pipelines is building $8.5 billion of brand new projects in the United States without taxpayer money. But here in Canada, Mark Carney is in the way. So my message to Mark Carney, get out of the way.
However, environmentalists and First Nations have expressed concerns over fossil fuel expansion, and BC's Premier is also pushing back as well.
And so when I've said, let's cross that bridge when we come to it, we'll see what the Premier comes up with, I'm being polite. I am being polite. There is no project. There is no bridge to cross unless the Albertan government and the federal Canadian government are committing billions of taxpayer dollars to build this project.
So Section 92(10)(a) of the Constitution makes it crystal clear that interprovincial infrastructure, originally when it was written, it was transportation, communications, that extends now to pipelines. Interprovincial pipeline is a federal jurisdiction, and a province does not have the ability to simply unilaterally say no.
We did reach out to the Prime Minister's office today and asked if the Prime Minister is considering Premier Smith's latest attempt to open up early planning for a pipeline through BC, and if so, if it would make his next major projects announcement. No word yet from Ottawa.